They told you that being selfish is wrong, that putting yourself first makes you a bad person. But what if I told you that everything you've been taught about selflessness was a lie? They drained you, used you, took everything you had, your time, your energy, your love, until there was nothing left of you. And when you finally chose yourself, they called you the villain. But here's the truth. The world does not reward those who give until they are empty. It rewards those who know when to say enough. And by the end of this video, you will never feel guilty for choosing yourself again. But be warned, most people won't tell you these lessons. If you leave now, you will never hear the words that might have set you free. Stay and learn the truth about being selfish before it's too late. You give and give until there's nothing left, yet no one stops to ask if you're okay. You owe yourself the same love you pour into others because no one will refill your cup for you. The world won't pause to appreciate your sacrifices, but your soul will scream for rest. Stop waiting for permission to choose yourself. You can't save anyone if you're drowning in your own exhaustion. Your heart may be big, but it has limits. And if you don't protect it, no one else will. There's nothing noble about giving away pieces of yourself until you're empty. Take care of yourself first, because no one else is coming to rescue you. Being selfish doesn't mean you don't care. It means you finally realize that you matter too. Every time you say yes to others at your own expense, you carve away another piece of yourself. Love should never be a transaction where you give endlessly while receiving nothing in return. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is love yourself enough to walk away. You've been told that selfishness is a sin, but what about self-abandonment? What about the quiet suffering that comes from always putting others first? Your happiness shouldn't be a reward for pleasing everyone else. It should be a right. You deserve to choose yourself, even if it makes others uncomfortable. Time doesn't refund itself. Every second you spend sacrificing yourself for those who wouldn't do the same is a second you'll never get back. Stop waiting for others to value you when you refuse to value yourself. Your time, your energy, and your peace are worth more than someone else's comfort. They call you selfish for setting boundaries, but they never called themselves selfish for crossing them. They expect you to be available, obedient, and self-sacrificing. But when do you get to breathe? You are not a tool for someone else's convenience. Protect your peace, even if it means disappointing those who only loved you for your compliance. Selfishness is not refusing to give. It's refusing to be used. It's knowing you're worth enough to stop letting people take without giving back. If they only stay when you're useful, they were never truly there for you. Walk away from those who confuse love with control. You've changed, they say, as if you were meant to stay the version of yourself that suited them best. Growth is selfish, and yet it is necessary. The people who truly love you will understand that your evolution is not an attack on them. Never shrink yourself to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. Saying no doesn't make you cruel, it makes you free. You don't exist to be drained by the demands of others. A life lived for the approval of everyone is a life never truly lived. Choose your peace over their expectations. They'll call you selfish for walking away, but they won't admit how often they left you broken. You deserve to be more than an afterthought, more than someone's emotional crutch. Your existence isn't meant to serve others at the cost of your own happiness. Let them call you selfish. At least now, you finally belong to yourself. Too much selflessness can destroy you, but too much selfishness can leave you alone. Balance is everything, yet so few ever find it. Love deeply, but not at the cost of losing yourself. Give generously, but never to those who take you for granted. The world rewards those who prioritize themselves. The ones who take climb higher and never look back. But at the top, the air is thin, and the loneliness cuts deeper than success. Be selfish, but don't forget that love is built in the spaces where we still choose others. If you live only for yourself, you will die with an empty heart. If you live only for others, you will die with an empty soul. There is no glory in being so selfless that you disappear, and there is no joy in being so selfish that you stand alone. They told you that loving yourself too much is dangerous, but they never warned you about what happens when you don't love yourself at all. Every time you betray yourself to keep others happy, a piece of you fades away. Selfishness in small doses is survival. It is choosing not to die while keeping everyone else alive. They want you to be everything for them, yet they would never be everything for you. They want your love, your time, your soul. But what do you get in return? If loving yourself means being called selfish, then so be it. Let them talk while you live. Love without boundaries is not love, it's servitude. If someone only wants you when you're giving, they never truly wanted you. You should not have to bleed just to prove you care. Real love doesn't ask you to break yourself in half. They called you selfish for leaving, but they never acknowledged how much you gave before you walked away. They wanted your presence, but only on their terms. You were never selfish. You just finally realized that staying was killing you. And saving yourself is never the wrong choice. Love is not about losing yourself in someone else. It's not about sacrificing your happiness for theirs. If someone asks you to give up your dreams, your peace, or your voice, they don't love you, they control you, and love should never be a prison. Some will only love you as long as you remain small, as long as you make them the center of your world. But the moment you start choosing yourself, they'll call it betrayal. Never apologize for outgrowing those who kept you caged. A healthy love will never ask you to be less so, they can be more. It will never demand that you stay silent, stay small, or stay in pain. The right person won't call you selfish for choosing your happiness. They'll celebrate you for it. They tell you to be humble, to wait your turn, to be patient. But patience never built an empire. The world belongs to those who take what they deserve, not those who wait for permission. If chasing your dreams makes you selfish, then let them call you selfish, because regret is far worse than being misunderstood. The ones who call you arrogant now will be the ones clapping when you succeed. They never wanted you to rise because they feared being left behind. But your dreams were never meant to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. Go after everything you want, no matter who calls you selfish for it. Success demands a certain level of selfishness. You cannot build a future while constantly apologizing for wanting more. If people loved you only when you were small, then they never truly loved you. Let them think you've changed, because staying the same was never an option. The biggest mistake you'll ever make is waiting for someone to tell you it's your turn. No one is coming to hand you a dream wrapped in approval. The moment you stop seeking permission is the moment your life truly begins. Take what's yours and don't look back. You spent years making sure everyone else was okay. Now it's your turn. Stop feeling guilty for choosing yourself. If they truly cared, they would have never expected you to sacrifice your happiness for theirs. Some people only love you when you're easy to control. Break free. They said you were selfish for growing, but they never asked how it felt to stay small. You were suffocating in the space they wanted you to remain in. The moment you chose yourself, you became the villain in their story. But villains are just heroes who finally stop begging to be loved. The hardest thing you will ever do is walk away from the people who once felt like home. But if that home was built on your suffering, then it was never really home at all. Growth is painful, and sometimes it requires a little selfishness. You deserve to live in a world where your happiness is not an afterthought. They will hate you for evolving beyond their expectations. They loved you when you were easy, when you didn't challenge them, when you played small. But your growth is not a betrayal, it's a revolution. Let them call you selfish while you build a life that finally belongs to you. You can't take everyone with you. Some people were only meant to love the old version of you. The one that stayed quiet, that made excuses, that gave until there was nothing left. Growth is about recognizing when it's time to be selfish enough to let go. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. The more you grow, the more people will call you selfish. But remember this, people who truly love you will never ask you to dim your light. They will never make you feel guilty for choosing yourself. True love celebrates your evolution. It doesn't fear it. There's a difference between loving yourself and destroying others to get ahead. If your happiness comes at the cost of someone else's suffering, it isn't self-love, it's cruelty. True power comes from building, not from taking. Never let ambition turn you into the very thing you once feared. A selfish heart will never know love, only control. You can take everything in the world and still feel empty. Because true wealth isn't in possessions. It's in the people who stand by you when you have nothing. Be careful that your pursuit of success doesn't leave you utterly alone. You think you don't need anyone, but one day you'll realize that success means nothing when there's no one left to share it with. Being selfish can get you to the top, but it won't keep you warm at night. Be ruthless with your dreams, but gentle with the hearts that truly love you. Because in the end, love is the only thing that makes life worth it. There's a fine line between protecting yourself and isolating yourself. If you build walls too high, you may keep out pain, but you'll also keep out love. Not everyone is trying to take from you. Some people genuinely want to give. Learn the difference before it's too late. You spent so long fighting for yourself that you forgot what it felt like to be held. Not everyone is here to hurt you. If you push away everyone who tries to love you, you'll win the battle but lose the war. Protect yourself, but don't let fear turn you into a prisoner of your own making. There's no glory in destroying yourself for others, but there's also no peace in becoming so selfish that you lose sight of love. The balance is in knowing when to give and when to protect yourself. And that is a lesson only life will teach you. Love yourself, but don't lose your ability to love others. Be selfish enough to grow, but selfless enough to know when to hold on. The strongest people know when to put themselves first and when to reach back for those who truly matter. Find that balance, and you'll never be lost again. Self-care isn't selfish, it's survival. But self-obsession, that's a slow death. The secret to happiness is knowing when to choose yourself and when to choose love. The ones who master this balance lives full of both power and peace. You don't have to choose between success and love. You can be driven and still be kind. You can chase your dreams and still make space for those who truly support you. True strength is in knowing that both ambition and connection can coexist. Being selfish will get you far, but love will take you further than you ever imagined. The most powerful people aren't the ones who take, they're the ones who build. Never let selfishness blind you to the things that truly matter. They called you selfish, but they never saw the years you spent breaking yourself for others. They only noticed when you finally said, enough. You are not selfish for choosing happiness. You are brave for finally putting yourself first. If you don't value yourself, no one else will. If you don't choose yourself, no one else will. Life is not a waiting game. Stand up, take what's yours, and stop apologizing for existing. Because the moment you stop seeking validation, you will finally be free. The world will call you selfish for choosing your own peace, but the same world won't stop to save you when you fall apart. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your heart. Your happiness is worth more than their approval. They called you selfish for leaving, but they never asked how much it hurt to stay. You gave them everything, and they still wanted more. Some people will never be satisfied until there is nothing left of you. Walk away while you still can. One day you'll realize that being selfish wasn't about taking. It was about finally giving to yourself. The love you wanted from others was always within you. The approval you craved was yours to give. And the life you dreamed of, it was always waiting for you to say, yes. You are not a villain for choosing yourself. The world made you believe that sacrifice is the price of love. But love should never feel like self-destruction. They call it selfishness, but what if it's survival? If saving yourself means letting them go, then so be it. You were taught to bend, to break, to give, to serve. But who teaches you to heal, to rise, to take back what's yours? They will say you've changed, but the truth is, you finally remembered who you were before they made you forget. And that is the most dangerous kind of freedom. You spent years waiting for someone to save you, until you realized that the person you were waiting for was you. No one is coming to fix what you refuse to claim as your own. Be selfish enough to rewrite your story. Be bold enough to never apologize for it. Selfishness is the art of no longer seeking permission to exist. You do not owe anyone an explanation for protecting your heart. You do not need validation to chase your dreams. The only thing you owe yourself is a life that feels like it belongs to you. One day you will look back and realize that the people who called you selfish were the same ones who took the most from you. And when that day comes, I hope you smile. Not out of anger, but out of peace. Because you finally understood that choosing yourself was the best decision you ever made. And for once, you don't feel guilty about it. Now you know the truth, but what will you do with it? Will you go back to the version of you that was always available, always giving, always exhausted? Or will you finally step into the power of choosing yourself? Because here's what they won't tell you. Selfishness isn't just a lesson, it's a transformation. And this was only the beginning. If this spoke to you, if you felt even a flicker of truth in these words, don't keep it to yourself. Drop a comment, because your story might be the one that changes someone else's life. And if you think this video hit deep, wait until you see what's coming next. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Because once you start down this path, there's no going back, and you wouldn't want to anyway.